Welcome to Streaming with Two Dudes, a podcast about all things streaming. Each episode, we break down some of the best series, songs, movies, and shows. I'm one dude, Parker.
I'm dude number 2, Jeff.
And dudes, this episode, we're talking about Cobra Kai, season 5, episode 9 and 10. But first, Jeff, what else have you been streaming?
All right, so I'm going to go a different direction this time. I'm actually
All right.
going to discuss what my wife has been streaming.
All right.
And apparently, she's been listening to this new upstart podcast called Streaming with Two Dudes. Totally unbeknownst to me. And I mean, of course, you know, she's my biggest fan. She supports me in everything I do. But I also knew she had zero interest in Cobra Kai. I tried to get her into it. She bailed after the very first episode. Not her thing. So I was a little surprised when this just happened the other night. And I don't even know how we got started on it. But she said, yeah, I've listened to all of them. And then her very next comment was like, so let's talk about Amanda.
She had a thing to say about our session.
So of course I did what any guy would do in that situation. I was like, baby, it's Parker's fault. He's the one that's infatuated with her. I have to play along, you know, for the fans and be entertaining.
I'll take it. I mean, I will say, if she watched the show, she would understand, first of all, and she would fall in love with Amanda. So it's really her fault for not getting into Cobra Kai, because anybody would love Amanda. Amanda is the only one that has a brain the whole entire show. So,
So Amanda, if you're listening, stay in your own lane. I'm a happily married man. Parker, however,
hey.
Single and ready to mingle. Speaking of Parker, what is your sick, twisted mind streaming or listening to here lately?
I actually watched something today, which is not the day that you're listening to this, but the day that we're recording this, called Dirty Daddy. It was the Bob Saget tribute, and it was recorded after his death. It was it's a bunch of his friends that were comedians and famous and people that I didn't even know that he was close with, and they do a tribute. And I knew it was going to be funny, but there were parts in it that really choked me up by people that I would not expect it. I'm not going to tell any of the stories or anything that were shared on it, just in case anybody wants to watch it. But there were people on it that I wasn't expecting, like Jim Carrey, Chris Rock, John Mayer, Tim Allen makes an appearance. I mean, and there's just like little videos that are sent in from people that just wanted to say things that couldn't show up in person. And it was just like, it was a mixture of hilarious and touching at the same time. And it was just a lot of emotions. And it was deeper than I expected a tribute to be. And it not just covering Bob Saget, but like it also, I don't know, kind of got me into thinking about just life and death in general. So that's kind of where my head was at today.
Nice.
All right, well, let's get into our number threes, our top threes. I have no idea who went first, so I will let you go first this week. What's your number 3, Jeff?
I'm gonna kind of be broad here and kind of focus on, because a lot of season 5, especially the first half, it was all about more of the adult characters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Daniel Chosen, Johnny, obviously Mr. Silver. And we didn't really see a lot of the students and their development. So that kind of started to take a trend in the second half of season 5. I kind of really focused in on the students these last 2 episodes. And so I'm thinking Sam and Tori, Eli, Miguel, Robbie, all those. I'm going to start off with Sam and Tori, because we've been talking about this for probably 2-3 seasons now, that we thought that was the next big build-up. This was one of those slow burns that we've talked about, where we saw that go in that direction, that we're waiting for when those 2 girls bury the hatchet, join forces, and we finally got to see that play out. I like the way they introduced Sam into Tori's world for the first time.
Yeah.
Now, what I really thought was even better than that was the reason Sam went over there. Her first thing was, hey, everything you're going with Cobra Kai, I'm here. Mm-hmm. And I think before Sam made a decision to go over there, I think it hit her that Tori has nobody just because, I mean, season 5, she was really stuck in the middle. I mean, she was kind of in Cobra Kai, but she wasn't. And Kreese bailed on her. So really, Sam just took that opportunity, a beautiful moment. I'm just here for you to talk about what you're going through. But by doing that, she kind of got a glimpse into Tori's world as far as kind of her living arrangements and her sick mom. So it was beautiful how that played out. But then when I started to, especially the scene where Sam and Tori meet up with Miguel, Robbie, Dimitri, and Eli. So the 4 boys are waiting and they see Sam and Tori walk up
Yeah.
together. So I really started to think back into this dynamic. So you look at Dimitri and Eli, relationship destroyed by Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
Sam and Miguel initially broke up because of Cobra Kai and the initial impact it was having on Miguel and his personality. And Sam and Tori, their rivalry was mainly due to Cobra Kai and, of course, Miguel. Robbie and Miguel, rivalry over Cobra Kai versus Miyagi-Do.
Yep.
And then and it just goes on and on. I mean, Robbie and Tori, their relationship ended because of Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
Miguel and Tori
Yeah.
relationship ended because, so you see all these kids coming together with a common enemy, and then you look back and see the impact it's had on all of their relationships with one another and for others, and you finally see them come together. So I really like how the students were used here in these last 2 episodes. We talked about girl power and the evilness genius of Silver and Kreese, but a lot of times it's the kids that have to get the job done.
Mhm.
And I've got it here in my notes somewhere. I'm trying to see where I wrote it, but there was an interesting comment when Silver, at close to the very end, when he arrives at his dojo
Mhm.
and everybody's there, and he looks kind of towards Daniel and is like, "This is your evil plan," or whatnot. And then the kids chime in real quick. I think it was Robbie and Sam. It's like, no, this was our plan. This was
Yeah.
our doing.
Mhm.
We're the ones that orchestrated this. So I really enjoyed the kids and the students in these last 2 episodes, and really, I love what they did with Devin, because we were both really curious of what was going to happen with her and how that was going to play out.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that she turned before Silver was exposed.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed that, but
Yeah. Um,
like Kenny and all the other ones, it was after he got exposed and after the fight
yeah.
that when they finally kind of relented, but she flipped before that to help
Yeah,
Sam and Tori.
she was fighting against Cobra Kai.
So I thought that was a pretty cool moment. But yeah, that was my number 3. Just I just kind of want to shine a light on all the student characters and kind of what they brought for these last 2 episodes.
All right, I'm gonna first of all, I mean, I guess I was just so excited to get to start talking about it, but we're here. We're at the end. We finally made it to the end.
And what a wild ride it's been, an
Right.
exciting ride. And it's, I always tell people that a lot of shows I've watched, and I haven't watched near as many as other people, but the ones I have watched,
Hey.
you tend to see the first season is usually always great, and
Mhm.
then it's almost like a gradual tell off, and sometimes it's a steep tell off.
Yeah.
But this show, it hasn't let up. I mean, it's like I'm constantly thinking, because like season 4, I'm like, wow, that might have been as good as season 1. And then like now I'm at season 5, I'm like, oh, was season 5 the best one so far? And it's just
Yeah.
like they've all been really good.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, again, I guess one of those shows where it's like, again, like, it doesn't have to be everybody's cup of tea, and I totally understand if it's not. But if you're into like this type of show, it's consistent, if not getting better as it progresses. So very few shows are good at that. Like you said, most of them tail off. There's only a few that I can even think of that I can say that every season is a good one, or you know, maybe better than the last, or got better as it went on. And I mean, and most of those shows are, you know, serious shows that are serious dramas. And this is a show about warring dojos, and it's kind of silly that a show like this can be this good, you know. But yeah, I'm with you, man. It's been a wild ride, and I've loved every minute of it, and glad that it brought us to this podcast, and this is gonna be a great ride. So it's just one wild ride after another. Um, and speaking of wild rides, like that's a perfect transition into my number three, which is a stolen limo. Uh,
I'm glad you're talking about this.
I just wanted to talk about mine. Mine's going to be a little bit more specific scenes, my three, because I just didn't know how to talk about anything else other than pointing out specific things because so much happened, like in these two episodes that it was just hard to really talk about any story arcs without just talking about the whole two episodes and basically talking about everything. So I'm just gonna my first scene that I'm going to talk about is limo scene, and honestly, when it first got hijacked, I didn't expect it to be which I'm going to refer to him as MFB. Those are his initials, and like I was really surprised that I that was the theory that I was just after he left out. I was just like, "Yep, my theory was wrong." I just accepted it, didn't expect it, so I was thoroughly surprised when Mr. Barnes was the driver of the limo. Uh,
Yeah, that's another one I guess you got right because although I don't think I was fully wrong.
no,
Um,
I don't think you. I don't think you naysayed it. I just think you.
I definitely said I didn't see him playing a major role for the rest of the season, and he did leave for several episodes. But I love the way they brought him in
Yep.
and used him at the end. But so yeah, they did bring him back, so I'll give you props for that.
Yeah, and he played a major role because even though Johnny got his second wind after seeing the ultrasound, he still wound up getting overtaken and was saved by Mike Barnes, who regained consciousness. So I mean, he did play. I would say he played a major role. I'm just gonna say I hit the nail on the head with that one. I'm just gonna say
But
I didn't
Parker,
expect it. I did not expect it. I'm not like it was a fleeting theory that, like I said, it was the odds were not in my favor on that one. So I just that's the only reason I'm going to be even cocky about it at all is because of how accurate it was and how I didn't even expect it to be so.
all
I
right,
wasn't even disappointed when I thought I was wrong about it. That's it. So
I'm going to test your memory a little bit since you brought up that scene when Mike Barnes comes back into the picture and kind of saves Johnny. What was the first thing Johnny said?
I don't even know. What do you think?
He looked at Mike Barnes and said, "By the way, I did most of this." Johnny wanted to be sure who got credit because, but Mike Barnes was sleeping during all of that altercation, and
That's funny.
he wanted to be sure. Hey, just because you got the last guy doesn't mean I'm not the one responsible for for most of this. So, not to hijack your thought or your number
No,
three,
yeah,
but
go on. Talk about.
I'm curious what did you think was happening in it?
I suspected it was Silver. I thought Silver had something to do with it. I didn't.
Absolutely. I don't know about you. I was suspicious. I don't know why. I don't know what threw me off. But when they first got to that club, and I don't remember his name. Is it Vinny?
I'm really bad with the cousins' names.
Yeah, it's his cousin, the one that's always a troublemaker. He walks up to the limo
Abbott and
driver, and
Costello.
yeah, he walks up to the limo driver and just says something to him, and I'm just like, yeah, this Silver's totally going to be involved in this. And then when they leave, but the girls don't go with them, and it's just the three guys, I'm like, oh yeah, there's that either Silver. I thought either Silver had paid that driver off, or Silver had somebody in there driving. So yeah, I didn't suspect Barnes at all. I thought for sure it was something Silver was doing.
Yeah, I was actually scared because they were all intoxicated. So I was just like, oh man,
Yeah,
like they're Silver's gonna have the upper hand. Like this, they're locked in a limo. Like they could literally do anything. And I'm thinking like this, we're about to see this go over a cliff. We're about to see this get driven into water. Like where are we going? And
yeah.
then when it pulled over on the side of the road, for some reason I got a little bit relieved, and then I saw it was Mike Barnes. So I was like,
Yeah.
yes, let's go, baby.
But I'm actually a little surprised because Silver made a comment to Kim Dae-young that I'm going to send them a message well before the tournament and it won't be subtle. I'm surprised they didn't have him make that statement before they revealed who the driver of the limo was.
Yeah.
He made that statement afterwards. So you already, I felt like if they'd have put that statement before, then that would have really driven the viewers thinking, oh crap, he's definitely got one of his guys in that limo and there's no telling what he's going to do with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that really cool how all that played out.
Oh, I guess I'll go into this. I mean, I don't really have anything else to say about that. I just really like we covered it. I just wanted to talk about how insane it was that because it got me like most of the time I don't really you know I can kind of see where things go, which I mean I try not to guess too much and play the guessing game outside of like theories, but as I'm watching it and like things are happening, I try not to think about them. I just let them play out. But that one, man, that one definitely got me for sure.
That's all I got to say about that.
That's all I got to say about
that. So what's your number two?
My number two is another scene that I really enjoyed. Just the 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 vibe of it was just so tense. The scene where Robbie goes to Cobra Kai and apologizes to the Cobra Kai students for not bringing them with him, and just that moment in particular where Silver steps up to him and they're just standing eye to eye, and Robbie just does not back down and just stares him back down. That was just I just really love that moment for Robbie, man. That was just
so
it was just great.
What do you think is what was his purpose? What or was there a purpose and he was just almost kind of like taking after his dad? His dad, people always talk about his dad like, man, he's got some balls. I'll give him that because
I think he's just doing it for I think he's doing it for everybody, but mainly Tori and Kenny. I think he's doing it to show them how much he fears their safety. That he would go and stand up in front of Silver and the entire dojo, and make himself that vulnerable just to put that statement out there. I think that's exactly what he was doing. I think he was not necessarily. I think he was talking to everybody because I mean he did feel responsible for all of them, but he was the closest to Tori and Kenny, and I think that he was specifically hoping to reach out to them.
Yeah,
I mean, he also knew that if he could reach out to them, that rest would follow.
Yeah, but I think in a lot of ways he really endangered Tori by doing that. But he's young, so I don't think it was a well thought out plan. I think, like you said, he was just trying to. I think, especially with youth, you think, all right, if I just say it this way, it'll change their mind. But obviously, Silver proved that he had all them. Well, he didn't have Tori, but he had the rest of them pretty well brainwashed up to that point.
Exactly.
One thing, I don't know why it struck me in that scene that you just brought up, but the thought just popped in my head. Maybe it would be a nice little touch. But do you think Robbie will ever take Lawrence as his last name? Because I'm assuming he's got his mom's last name.
He does, and I only know that because I was looking up the characters the other day, and her last name is Keen. But I don't think so because I mean, his mom, while him and his mom have a troubled past, like they have troubles themselves, they also do care for each other deeply. So I don't see him. He doesn't have like that troubled a relationship with his mom to where he would want to change his last name because he doesn't have a reason to change it. So I don't think so unless some weird scenario where him and his mom got married, which it would never happen. But I don't think so.
I mean, I think to an extent it would be a nice touch, but at the same time, kind of what you said, I think it would be a situation where the mom would have to be okay with it, or maybe it's even her idea.
Yeah,
Obviously, Johnny and Robbie are in a really great place, but this is over the last few months of his life, where, like you said,
exactly.
even though his mom's not been the best of a parent, she's at least been there
Mhm.
and actually in his life. But I don't know, they just hit me. I don't know if it's just the way Silver said Robbie Keene, and I'm just like, I wonder if he would ever take his dad's last name since they've gotten so close and
I
whatnot.
mean,
But
yeah, that would be the only I don't think if it was Robbie's idea, I don't think it would ever be Robbie's idea. I think it would have to be a situation where his mom sees how happy Robbie is with Johnny and how happy John or how, well, Johnny's taking care of everything now. Maybe her signing over papers, like adoption papers or like custody papers, and being a part of that, and him just being like, just maybe even Johnny being like, "You're a Lawrence now." You know what I'm saying? Something like that could happen, but I don't think it would be Robbie's idea
yeah.
or Johnny. I don't even think it would be Johnny's idea. I think it would have to come from Robbie's mom. I can't remember her first name. Lori?
Yeah, I'm about like you. I'm terrible with the names of some of the characters you don't see very much.
Yeah. What's your number two?
I'm going to go towards the ending. Actually, my last two will be towards the ending, but and maybe it's just me. Maybe it's because I recently watched this other show called Stranger Things. Maybe others have heard of it. A lot of the ending had a Stranger Things feel to me
Really?
because, and I guess what gave me that vibe is there's a time there towards the ending where all the good guys are losing. I mean,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Johnny's getting beat up bad. Robbie's getting hurt bad. It's like all the good guys are losing, and it reminded me of Stranger Things because you remember there was a moment there where, like, all all of them were being defeated, and you're like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, this is just sad, dark, and depressing. And there for a while, and then of course you had Chosen. You're like, oh my gosh, what's going on with him? Um did you think they were going to kill anybody off?
I thought Chosen was dead. I did think Chosen was dead. Because I honestly I was afraid somebody was gonna die. And that's kind of I mean, I kind of I guess it maybe ever since the fight with Eli, I've just kind of been expecting it. The fight with Kenny and Eli where he dropped to the ground. I've kind of been fearing that because I was like, maybe they're, setting us up for that.
Yeah.
So I've been kind of afraid of that. And I was afraid of the in the, the same not the same fight, but the same montage of scenes when Kenny punched Robbie. I thought that was gonna be it. I thought that was gonna it was gonna like Robbie was gonna die. And that was gonna bring everybody together. And I'm like, and like just in that one slow motion scene of Robbie backing up, I saw everybody, being torn up because everybody loved Robbie and that bringing everybody together. And I'm like, no, this makes so much sense that Robbie would be the one to die because him and Johnny just got close. Johnny's got a new baby on the way. The baby could be named Robbie either way. Like if it's a boy or a girl, it could be named Robbie. And I'm like,
Woo.
oh my gosh, I'm like all of this like happens like in that second. Like I'm having all these thoughts, and then it shows him, fine later on. I'm like, that's so anticlimactic. Like, why'd y'all have to do the slow motion punch? Like,
Yeah.
oh man. But yeah, it gave the now I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it does. Now that I'm thinking about it, does have that vibe where you see every
Yeah.
character except for one, and then I guess Daniel's 11 in the situation shows up and takes down
Yeah.
all the
And
evil.
the other part that kind of made me think of it was, I mean, of course, in Stranger Things, all the different groups were in different areas of the world, but
Yeah.
still
Oh, for the
fighting.
last season, yeah.
Yeah. And even there towards the end, when you had Hopper and Joyce and they're fighting, in Russia, and you're like, well, what's this got to do? But you saw the role that played and how it helped the kids back home.
Yeah.
And in the same way, you've got Johnny Chosen and Mike Barnes storming Silver's place, highly intoxicated. And I'm like, how is this part of the big plan? How this is a horrible idea. But the way it played out, it was very important that they kept Silver and all his guys busy because it gave the kids and Eli and Dimitri and all them the time they needed to do what they needed to do by exposing Silver.
And
So
vice versa. The kids showing up at the dojo also helped, them, because some of them started going to the dojo to go take care of that.
yeah, so it just gave me a lot of Stranger Things vibes there, and that's a very big compliment. So yeah, I don't, maybe it's because I'd watched it recently, but we were talking about if someone was going to get killed off. I thought it was possible, but there was still a part of me to where I'm like, I don't think this show is. I'm trying to choose my words when I say it's not at that level. I don't mean like not at a level of quality to where they can kill somebody off. It's just they've got that good mixture of humor and not taking themselves seriously. I'm like, is killing somebody off a little too much
Yeah,
for the
it's like
type
this
of show?
fantasy world where like violence isn't real,
So
almost. Like it's like where, when we've seen somebody that should have been paralyzed basically go on to, recover and not only walk, but perform karate and be able to still hold his own against
yeah,
fully healthy people.
and I think I heard somebody asked the writers that question. This is, after season 5 is already done and aired. And they said it was on the table. I can't remember now exactly how they quoted it, but something to the effect, we're not sure if we had earned the right to kill a character off.
Yeah.
If anything, I definitely pictured Kreese being killed off because I thought that might be a suitable ending for his character, especially when at the time you thought, and I don't know if we'll discuss this later in any of your points, but we thought maybe he had gained some ground just with his own demons, with how emotional he got about, in his counseling, talking especially about Johnny. Of course, we find out later that appeared to all be part of a ploy and part of his plan. But
I mean, I'll be frank with you. Kreese is my number one.
okay.
Just because. But I mean, if you want to go ahead and we don't have to go too far into it because we can cover it later. But if it's not like a big part of your point, but
I'll keep it at that. I was just basically saying that I was doubtful of anybody being killed off, but
yeah,
Kreese was the only one I thought that might even have a chance of being killed off.
Yeah, it made sense.
So I'll go ahead and jump into, I guess, my number one, and then you'll do your number one. I told you gave me some Stranger Thing vibes, but then like the very, very ending was like classic 80s action movie ending where you've got like all of them outside of where the big finale happened. It's dark. You got all the main characters, especially the love interests, all coming together, and you've got the sirens and the lights in the background.
Yep.
You got the certain music, but what really hit me is somebody dropped the big L word, and I'm not talking about lackadaisically. That's not the word. Not lubrication. That's not the word. Lovableness? Nah, it's a 4-letter love word. No, it's not lick. It's not lacy. It's not lava.
Whoa.
I'm going to use a little help to tell you what the word is. I'm not sure if the sound will come through good, but
I think you have enough that we won't get copywritten.
Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't even think about that. Oops. Well, the word Beavis it's love. The word is love. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Miguel dropped the big word. I guess that's what you do when you love somebody. And it's like, wow, he dropped it. I'm like, such a cool ending as far as their relationship. Of course, it's been about karate, but they fixed in a lot of the relationships, which was fun to watch. And it made me personally think back, because that's such a big moment in most people's life, is when was the first time you used the L word and what was the moment like? So I started thinking back and I was so disappointed in myself. I didn't feel as bad when I asked Steph. And she's like, yeah, I don't remember who said it first or the moment or anything. So I was like, well, I'm going to check with my daughter-in-law because they're more recently married.
Yeah.
Their relationship is pretty new. It's like, I want to hear somebody's real life story. She kept receipts, Parker. She kept receipts. She had like posts pictures the whole bit. So, and I'll be short with it. She said, yeah, she remembers it. Her and Will were at Will's grandparents' house, and she was sitting on the couch, and Will was like working on changing the oil in the car. He came in, and she's like, "Hey, I've got something I need to tell you." And he's like, "Oh yeah." And then she says, "I love you." And he's like, "Well, I love you too, but I really need to get back to changing the oil in the car."
So romantic.
And she even took a picture of him and his pawpaw under the car messing with the oil. And
That's awesome.
she actually said this was only like 3 weeks into their relationship.
Oh wow.
And but she said she knew after like either the first or the second night.
Yeah.
And you hear those stories. That's not the way my story played out, but you hear some people's story where it's like they knew, and it ended up coming to fruition. But no, it was cool to hear her story. She said, yeah, I mean, she was nervous, obviously, but she'd already known it, for I guess several days, even though she said it going into 3 weeks. But yeah,
It's a great story.
but yeah, I just love it. Just gave me that massive 80s action movie ending, the way it all played out. And then it's like everything. And I almost forgot, Parker,
Mhm.
I got my bro hug.
Yeah.
Remember I told you?
You did.
I was like, nah, we didn't get it between Johnny and Miguel, but their relationship is solid. So maybe
Yeah.
that they haven't shown it, but they've been tight. But yeah, it was the classic bro hug, what the hand thing, and then you just kind of bump shoulders. But it was still, we got a bro hug between Johnny and Daniel. So
Yeah. We did get it.
uh,
We got Johnny Miguel. We got that one earlier in the
well,
season in Mexico.
did I say Johnny? I meant Robbie and Miguel.
Oh, gotcha.
My bad. So yeah, Johnny and Daniel, and then I was wanting a bro hug with Robbie and Miguel. So,
Gotcha.
but like I said, they showed a ton of camaraderie throughout season 5. So that'll do.
Maybe you'll get one in season 6.
I'm banking on it, but we'll see. So I'm really curious to hear your number one.
My number one, I mean, I've already given a preview, so it's Crease, and basically just his whole thing. And I just kind of wanted to, we see him actually open up to the therapist, but which I thought was being genuine, and then we find out he was just manipulating her and using that story to bring her closer to steal her badge so that he can use that to escape.
Crease,
Later on,
Crease,
man.
Crease.
I so I'm guessing you thought he was dead. I did.
When the scene first played out, I don't know, it just came off very odd to me. The way it played out with the guy that stabbed him, and something didn't add up, something didn't seem right. But there was the other side of me where it's like, you know what, that's probably a good way for him to go.
Yeah.
Because I'm about like you, I thought what happened with the therapist was genuine.
Because he was tearing up.
And me and you talked about him a lot, saying, I don't, we struggle with the idea of him being portrayed as a hero in any way, because there's just too much going on. There's too much evil and complexity. But we thought, maybe there's something he offers up. And he did help Johnny and Daniel out a little bit. Obviously, he thought he was getting something in return, but
right, this little Crease way is a.
So honestly, so much had happened before that scene that I kind of struggled. I was like, something didn't seem right, but hey, maybe that's probably a good way for him to go. And then I forgot about him. I completely forgot about him when the scene went to dealing with everything else that was going on. But I don't know if you caught this. I actually wrote it in my notes. Well before that scene.
Well, I mean, when he was laying there in the cafeteria and they were checking his pulse, he looked dead. Like he didn't have color in his face.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, like I was just like you said, I thought that was just the way for basically for the writers and the show itself to just say Crease is done.
Yeah. And I don't know if you noticed this on the second or third watch through, but this was well before he had that, what we thought was a special moment with the therapist. I want to say it was right after he called up to her to talk to her about the recommendation that didn't go in his favor.
Mm-hmm.
And as she's walking out, the camera zooms in from his perspective when she uses her badge to get out the door.
Yeah.
So they kind of throw you a hint
Mhm.
that he's viewing that as an opportunity. And sure enough, he uses that whole spiel to get her badge. I didn't
Yeah.
catch that the first time, but the second time I'm
Yeah.
like, wait a second,
Mhm.
something's up with that badge.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're just I mean, yeah, I mean, like, it didn't stick out. I wasn't thinking of that in the moment of him getting stabbed, you know?
Yeah.
And I wasn't thinking of the Jello. I mean, the Jello should have I mean, that could have been pretty obvious as well because I mean, they made a big deal about red Jello this whole season,
Yeah.
you know? And so it's like, it should have been obvious, but everything else, I mean, like, the on the other side, it made sense. Johnny was the only thing that he claimed, he kept claiming that, you know, he cared about, and that was what he always claimed. And so, if that would have been the moment for him to actually have broken, would have been hearing what Johnny had to say, and what Johnny had said to him, you know, when they came and saw him. But when they rolled him into the morgue, I knew that he was still alive.
Yeah.
Not a doubt in my mind because I was just like, there's no sense in us even needing to see this unless something big's about to happen. I was just like,
Yeah.
oh, and I knew it. And then the mortician kept going into like, or I guess the coroner was like going into the just kind of like inspecting the blood, and I was just like, you're about to go down, man. You're about to go down. Just knew it was gonna happen. But yeah, he escaped, man. He got out. Totally, which was your theory. Congratulations, man.
Well,
I will give you props. I know that was one of your kind of wild theories that you kind of threw out there, and you got it right, man. So
wow.
that one is you.
I'm glad you
Congratulations.
I'm glad you pointed that out because I totally forgot that I didn't realize that was one of my theories.
I mean, I don't know if you necessarily labeled it as a theory, but you brought up the possibility.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, I've you know I have to edit these, and I'm pretty sure I remember having a conversation, or us having a conversation, and you asking me like, "Now, do you think he's going to get out of prison, or escape, or something like that?" And I was like, "Well, no. Like, I think he's done. Like, why would he?" And then, which we have some predictions about season 6 later, and we'll obviously get into that. But yeah, he's going to be very heavily involved, and yeah. So what's your honorable mention?
And I apologize if I'm stealing anything from what you might be saying over these next 2 points, but my honorable mention goes to Stingray. Sting freaking Ray. I mean, we've talked about it before. He's not in a lot of scenes and he doesn't have a lot of impact. But man, when he shows up, I'll put it this way. He's the character that makes the most with his time than anybody else.
Mhm.
And when he first, I'll even backtrack a little bit, like towards the earlier part of these 2 episodes. I guess it was like Sam Miguel and all of them went to approach him to get him to confess that it wasn't Kreese and that Silver was behind it as far as the assault. Man, I don't know about you, but I really felt for the guy.
Yeah.
And we've talked about him a good bit, that the situation he was in of just wanting to fit in, be a part of something bigger than himself. He's kind of portrayed as basically a loser. He's probably 30 and whatever, but man, he talks about wanting to be a proud and noble warrior,
Mhm.
but he's neither proud nor noble, and definitely not a warrior. He's just
Yeah.
scared. And I will say, I was so disappointed in Sam's reaction.
Yeah.
Which, granted, that it didn't go her way, and she's often portrayed as kind of like a bratty little rich kid. I get it, but I was like, I felt for the dude, and I'm like, dude, I totally get it. I mean, he's in a tough spot, but man, when he pulls up in his Cobra Kai vehicle and to pick up Daniel, and then he kind of gives his little speech to Daniel on the way out there, and then Daniel's like, "Well, I can't fight these kids." Stingray like, step aside.
Dude, that was great.
Time for Stingray to take the trash out. You know what? And in that moment, I'm proud to say, Stingray, dude, you became a warrior in
Yeah.
that moment. You now can stand proud and noble. Obviously, at the very end, he confesses that, to the authorities that it was not Kreese, which kind of makes you, and we'll probably get into this in the theories for season 6. And obviously, Kreese is in trouble now for escaping prison. If he'd have just held out a little bit longer,
Yeah.
he would have been freed anyway. So
Yeah.
it's like, But anyway, but yeah, definitely my honorable mention is Mr. Stingray. When dude shows up, stuff happens, and he man, That's all I got to say about that. So, Sensei Parker, what is your honorable mention?
My honorable mention was the fight between Trozen and Silver.
Oh,
That was just an epic showdown, and Chosen had him. Like I mean, if Silver wasn't Silver, didn't have if Silver had more honor, he would have been defeated in that moment. And he lost twice that night. So it was nice, like it sucked seeing, because I mean, obviously we knew that Chosen wasn't going to be the one to eventually bring him down, but it was nice seeing Chosen not die. But I was kind of afraid that we were going to lose our boy Chosen for a minute. But that showdown, man,
yeah, it was
epic,
pretty. I,
epic.
you know, this
It
poses the
reminded me of Kill
question.
Bill for some reason.
Oh, that poses the question: is Chosen the best fighter in the Cobra Kai world? You can make the argument for sure.
I think we're showing that Daniel is
Well, yeah. I mean, you could. I'm just thinking back to some of their sparring sessions, and Chosen often gets the best of Daniel.
true, but they're also sparring.
Yeah,
Um, like I mean, there's things that Chosen knows that Daniel doesn't, but I think when Daniel thinks about things and doesn't use emotion and he uses his brain more than he uses his emotions, he's better. And we see that in the fight, which I mean is it's not part of my honorable mention, but the last fight with him and Chosen, he kicked his ass through defense.
yeah,
Like like just learning his opponent. Like, does Chosen kick his ass a couple times? Like, yeah. But if it came down to a death match, would Daniel's instincts kick in and everything that he's learned about Chosen all of a sudden be way more valuable than a sparring match? Absolutely.
yeah,
And I think, as much as like I hate the whole like who's better than who and who's the best, or like the one person, the main, the main hero always being the best, like is not really like something that I'm a big fan of. But in this case, it's absolutely like I will absolutely say that Daniel would be the best fighter. I mean, in any given situation, maybe Chosen, probably, but I don't know. It's a really hard to say. It's really hard to say because I mean Daniel's also defeated Chosen when it
yeah,
came down to death. So I mean it's a hard decision. It's hard to say like who's the best in
yeah,
the world. I mean, just like within the teams, like there's definitely a case for like the top three male fighters, the top three female fighters, but it's like how do you pick which one's really the best at the end of the day? Same with Johnny, Chosen, and Daniel. Like, it's really hard to say which one is really the best because on any given day, one of them could beat the other one.
yeah. That was a solid honorable mention choice there.
Thank you, thank you. Who is your dude or well, I guess I'll go ahead and just say mine.
Well, I will tell
Because you
you,
you basically covered mine.
if you pick mine, I'm still sticking with mine because I'm not picking a backup.
Well, I don't think so because it was your honorable mention, but my dude of the week was Stingray. And I
Stingray.
won't go into it too much more, but basically all of the things that you mentioned, the only thing that I will say is for anybody that is either of under the age of driving age or just of low intelligence in general, driving with sunglasses at night is not a good idea. It's dangerous, and I don't care if you are a Stingray. Sensei Parker tells you don't wear sunglasses at night in this dojo.
But the '80s song, I wear my
I know.
sunglasses at night. Plus,
Who
he
is that?
just didn't he say that Stingray see better at night? Or
Yeah.
well, then there you go. He's a Stingray.
Well,
He's
that's what I'm saying. I don't care if you're a Stingray and you think you see better at night.
yeah,
I don't. I was just thinking about that. Like on the third watch, I was watching it, and when he did that, I was like, how? Like, I mean, like obviously, like it wouldn't be funny, but watching it the third time, knowing that everybody was okay and it didn't happen, I was like, how funny would it be? Like if he put on the sunglasses And then that scene when they're like driving down the road, he just doesn't make the turn and just goes straight off, just straight off. It doesn't even make the turn.
Welcome,
You just see the headlights dip down like in Fargo.
welcome to the dark, sick world of Parker's brain.
It's crazy in here. You do not want in here, I promise.
Yeah.
It's pretty twisted. But yeah,
And
that's my dad of the week or dude of the week.
and by the way, that whole thing where I sang for a little bit, definitely just you can edit that out. I'm not sure if the world is ready for that.
Oh, they're ready. They're ready.
Definitely my wife's not ready to be hearing me sing to the world. My dude of the week.
But I have to leave your socials out of this episode so you don't have ladies
Okay.
beating down your door.
Oh yeah. Amanda, stay back off, Amanda. My gosh. So my dude of the week. He's pretty important. We've talked about him a few times in this podcast, maybe brought up some in the past. It's Daniel LaRusso, people.
Nice.
And I'm telling you, that last fight, I love how, okay, I'll give Amanda a little bit more love. I haven't talked about her much, but she gives him one more piece of encouragement.
Careful, though. Careful.
We are with you, Daniel. Do what you have to do.
Yeah.
Like, enough of this Mr. Nice Guy. Summon whatever you need to summon to take care of this. Let's do this.
She's like, if I have to see my husband murder somebody tonight, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. That's literally what I saw in her face. She's like,
you know, it's nothing a strong drink won't fix later. It's all good. But I love the fact, and you even mentioned this. If you compare Daniel's fight, you could easily argue that, hey, maybe Daniel's the best fighter out of all these people. Dude, he was flawless. He summons the old teachings of Silver to use against him. And really the vibe you've gotten through the entire Karate Kid Cobra Kai story, Daniel's typically outmatched in his fights. He's usually the smarter fighter, but you could argue maybe he's not the better of the fighters. Johnny, probably a better fighter in Karate Kid 1. Chosen, probably the better fighter in Karate Kid 2.
Well, your term, your definition of better is different.
Well, okay.
Than mine. I would say stronger fighters.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because the flip side I was going to add is that Daniel's smarter. And, some of the villains, they, typical 80s villain, they're dumb. They don't, it's all about brute force. And,
right.
and Daniel has more finesse. He's a little bit smarter. So he's always used that to his advantage. So yeah, maybe better is the wrong word, stronger.
Stronger and smarter. I would say those are apt.
I mean, he's
definitions.
He's gotten his butt kicked in several of those fights. And matter of fact, even Karate Kid 3, I mean, the dude kept scoring points and doing something illegal to get the point taken away. So, sometimes they're just toying with Daniel just to inflict damage.
Yeah.
And again, Daniel's a smarter fighter. But in this one, he dominates. I mean, he's flawless. And when it mattered the most, when literally Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do are on the line, not just locally now, because we've learned this is going global, with all the students watching, everybody's, I mean, when it mattered most, he dominates Silver. And what better way to end it than what, Parker? What did he use at the very end?
He's the crane kick.
The crane kick. Are you kidding me? I lost my mind when that happened. And I was like, wow. Of course, you figure it's Daniel and Silver and probably one last fight. That's not the way I pictured it going down, but I love that's the way it went down. I mean, he dominated Silver. And you got to figure he's probably still a little bit intoxicated still, not even at his best game. And dude was flawless. For the first fight in this entire movie, show, series, Daniel dominated. He looked like the stronger fighter, the smarter fighter, everything.
All right, I'm going to point this out just because I don't know if you really noticed it. But, I mean, you kind of referenced it with him, using what Silver told him, but did you notice that was what was able to let him win the fight, was the lesson that he's been learning this entire season, this entire show, is that sometimes you have to use different styles, and he's basically using someone he perceives as the most evil person that he's ever met, something that he taught him. He's using that in the moment to win, and it works. And so, I mean, like, I don't think they specifically pointed that lesson out to us, but just that whole lesson that he's had to learn over this whole show just came to fruition in that moment, and then they just kind of breezed past it a little bit. They didn't really point it out, like nobody made a see, dad, this is what you have to do sometimes, kind of a lesson. But it's very much there. Like he's been all about Mr. Miyagi's teachings, and in the moment that he had to win, he had to pull out what he learned from Silver, and that time, obviously he won with the crane kick, but as far as like his like that's a move that he learned from Mr. Miyagi, but as far as his tactic going into the fight was what he learned from Silver on how to defeat somebody.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, just that whole, like I've said before, the yin and yang of it, the balance of is too much knowledge. It's not enough. It's not the knowledge that's bad. It's the intent behind it. And I think that's what Daniel's had to learn this whole time.
Yeah, and we saw it play out a good bit in season 4 as far as the styles, especially
Mhm.
through Sam's character. But you also see Daniel learn a lot from that, and it's cool how that they use the flashbacks a lot to the Karate Kid movies, especially his scenes with Mr. Miyagi when Daniel's teaching a certain principle, such as fighting styles. He then flashes back and remembers Mr. Miyagi telling him, Daniel son, you have to make it your own. So he ends up remembering, oh, okay, and then he starts to put some of the pieces together. So yeah, it's really cool how all that was brought together. Very fitting, like you said, how he used Silver's. What is it they say? The student surpasses the teacher,
Mhm.
and we saw that happen because he used his teachers, very own teachings against him to, I mean, just dominate him. And then you see all the Cobra Kai students kind of take off their gear and throw it on Silver while
Mhm.
he's laying on the ground. So I just and to me, when we see Daniel dominate here at the very end, it also kind of took me back to Johnny. And you had mentioned that when he saw that ultrasound, and he even tells Carmen later, he's like, "Wow, when my family love, I'll use the big L word,
Yeah.
came to the forefront, it took me to another gear I didn't know I had." And I think for the first time, we're seeing the major difference between the original Cobra Kai and Miyagi Do, whereas Cobra Kai is built on anger, revenge, bitterness, resentment. And while that can feed into a lot of areas of your life and make you strong, ultimately it's love. And when you find something to fight for, it's
Mhm.
really going to take you to levels that can't be surpassed. And
Yeah.
I love the message. I love the way it played out. It was great.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that scene with Johnny. Alright, so we're gonna do something a little different here. Since we are caught up with Cobra Kai, we are gonna give a rundown of our top 5 characters of the show so far. We're gonna go, rank them from number 5, not necessarily our least favorite, but number 5 being the lowest to number 1 being our favorite character of the show. And Jeff, I can't wait to hear yours. Let's go. What's your top 5 favorite characters?
All right, I'm gonna preface this with how difficult this was because I mean, there's probably 20 different characters you could legitimately pick from. So I also try to take into consideration how much of the 5 seasons they've been in.
Yeah.
So, for example, while I love the character Devon, I couldn't place her in my top 5 just because she's not had enough, I guess, appearance or presence. So, having said all that, number 5 for me is Tori. We've talked about Tori so much. I'm just going to kind of leave it at that. Just her, and she's one that didn't start. So I think that speaks a lot to her that she wasn't one of the original season 1 characters, but she did come in season 2, but made an
Mhm.
immediate impact and just everything about her character, just what she brought to the show as an actress, and just the different elements she had to handle. You could make a case she should be higher than 5, but there's some steep competition. So I think the fact that I put her at 5 speaks volumes to her. What about you? What's your number 5?
No, you just go ahead and roll through all yours.
Okay, you just want me to go 5 through 1. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, just go through all yours.
All right. It gets tougher as we go down the list. So my number 4, I felt like originally I don't think I had him in my top 5. I was like, well, I got to put him in there. He's Miguel. I got Miguel number 4.
All right.
Is He's been great since the beginning, and like any good character, there has to be times you hate him, which we did, but I gotta go with Miguel number 4. Number 3, I'm going with Hawk, Eli, whatever whatever floats your boat.
Yeah.
We've talked about him a lot. I love the progression of his character. And then, probably even more so than Miguel, you have a stretch where you really, really hate him, which makes his return and just seeing him reunite with Dimitri, his best friend, was just one of my more favorite scenes in the entire season. So number 3, I go with Hawk. Number 2, man, it's getting tougher. I'm going to cheat a little bit here, and I'm actually going to use 2. I'm going with Kreese/Silver, because a good show is only going to be as good as its villains, and they were masterful. We talked about it before. As far as the writers, you can't even do this show if Kreese isn't involved. You could have, but no, it's all about Kreese. And then we see Silver come into the picture, and my gosh, he takes evilness to another level. So the classic villains that, man, they just keep you engaged. That you love to hate them. And that leads me to my number 1. I imagine out of 100 people making a top 5 list, probably 60% have this guy at number 1. It's Johnny. I mean, from season 1, the focus was on him. I mean, we've talked about it. He's been one of the complete packages as far as the humor, some of the most touching scenes in the entire series he's been involved in. Just the way his growth, maturity, everything about it. Number 1 is Johnny. I had to leave a lot of good characters out, but there was only room for 5.
Yeah,
So.
I mean that's a great list, and I mean I'm gonna say mine here in a second. We have some crossovers, but man, like you said, it was super hard to just pick 5. So
If my wife is listening, take note. I did not put Amanda in my top 5. She's probably number 6 though, but
she would definitely make the top 10.
oh yeah,
So
top 10 easy.
just gotta keep her on her good side right now.
All right, I'm anxious to hear yours.
All right, so I did mine just I did mine a little different. I didn't do mine, necessarily. I mean, the impact on the show definitely played a part in my rankings, but I also did I took into the account like how much I enjoyed seeing the character, watching watching their arc progress, or just enjoyed their character the whole time they were on. Just pretty much anytime they were on TV, I enjoyed them. Which, number 5, if he would have been there longer and we would have seen more of him, I probably would have had him higher, but he didn't. So I had to put number 5, Chosen. I mean, he was a character that I didn't expect to play a big part in the show, but the entire time he was there and every scene that he was like in, even though he was silly in some of it, he elevated every scene that he was in and just did a great job of just bringing more to the show, like more that I didn't even think I needed, and loved him. Loved him. The more I saw him, the more I loved him. So I'm really hoping that we see more of him in season 6, even though he's injured, but he's walking around, so he's okay.
What was it? He told Daniel it's just a flesh wound.
Just
And
the
Daniel's
flesh
like, yeah, like all your
like
flesh.
all your flesh. Yeah, but he's tough. He's gonna be okay. Yeah, I really thought he was gonna die, especially after he made that phone call. I
Oh
was thinking
yeah.
about that. I was like, everybody that finally confesses love is gonna die. So I'm glad he survived. I'm glad they didn't take it there yet. I'm not ready for it. My number 4 is somebody that you had. I I love his story arc, and I probably would have put him a little bit higher if he would have had a little bit more impact on the show this season, but I understand why he didn't, which is why I put him at number 4, which is Eli/Hawk. Loved his story arc. You know, he was a bit of an ass sometimes, but who isn't? He was just a little bit more than most, but I'm glad to see like where he's come back, and I like how they've been able to incorporate his personality from before while also, he still has the tendencies to revert back to being, a jerk, but he still is, keeping his heart and he's still wanting to do good. So love that character. My number 3 is Tori. Like you said, she hasn't been in it very long, but the moment that she entered the show, she's made an impact. She's gotten better as the show goes on. She's gotten more important as the show goes on. She's gotten her development as a character's gotten better. I think I can't even think of her name, but the actress that plays her has gotten even better at playing her. It's just been a great character, a great addition to the story. Love it. Love Tori, the character all around.
And we've talked about this before. Anytime you see a character like that come in one of the later seasons, but then plays a pivotal role, it kind of makes you wonder, was that the writer's intent from the very beginning, or did they make just such a huge impact that the writers kind of had to change course? Because you do see that. I mean, sometimes, we've seen 5 seasons, and I'm sure a lot of it the writers had planned out from the beginning, but I'm sure there's some things they made some tweaks here and there just because of the feedback or the chemistry you get with certain characters or certain storylines. I'm
Yeah.
curious, was that their plan for Tori all along, or did they? But she made such an impact, they're like, all right, we're going to tweak some things here, and we got to really elevate her here.
I would imagine that they probably have the main Cobra Kai Miyagi-Do of it all planned out from start to finish and what they want to happen, from beginning to end and how they want that to go. But as far as like the kids involved and how all that plays out, they probably play that season to season and like how much some of the personal life stuff
Yeah,
happens. That's probably a little bit more on the fly, I would imagine.
yeah.
My number 2 is probably no surprise. Stephanie, I don't have to worry about how Jeff's wife thinks of me. So my number 2 is going to be Amanda. Even though she doesn't necessarily play an important part of like as far as the going ons of, the things that happen in the show, as far as in the world that we see, it feels like she's the only one that lives in our world.
Yeah,
Her and I would say maybe Daniel's cousin. Those are like the only 2 people that feel like they live in our world.
yeah.
And Amanda, she's just a great character. Like I mean, I'm not gonna go into it because we have so much on this show. So I won't spend much more time or breath talking about how great of a character all around she is, but every time she's on the screen, I love it. Like I could just watch the Amanda show. Not that Amanda show, but the Amanda LaRussa show. Um, but yeah, love Amanda. Love her. She's my favorite female character on probably just about any show I've seen. Like just all around, enjoy her every second of it.
And so
Um,
that's what I was trying to explain to my wife. It's like it's the character.
yeah,
I was like, now the actress in real life, I mean, she might be, a horrible person for all we
yeah.
know. So
I was like, I have no. I was like,
it's really the character. I said, and of course, she hasn't watched the show, so I said, I feel like you would have really appreciated her character as well.
she's
Um,
physically attractive, but it's definitely more than that. She is just a fierce queen. But it might be 60%, and if we polled the entire viewer audience, but in this podcast, it is 100%. My number 1 is Johnny. Like you said, all of the reasons, man. He's where the show the reason the show started. He's the reason even the bad stuff started. It all started with him, and he's just come so far. He's found a way for us to be there for him, even when he's being an ass. It's just, it's been great, man. And he's come so far. He's done so well. Love him. Best, the best character in the show.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that.
All right. So, Jeff, and listeners, now we are going to spend some time talking about season 6 and theories on Cobra Kai and where we think it's headed. Jeff, do you have any crazy theories, like specifically, that you want to talk about, or do you want to like just generalize?
I will give a little warning to our listeners. There might be plenty of time to be thinking of theories for season 6. Everything I've been reading is season 6 could take a while. The writers for Cobra Kai have been on other projects. Season 6 really hasn't officially been green lighted, but I think it's safe to say it's going to happen. But everything I'm reading is, before season 5 actually dropped early. Typically, it was New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. So this one actually came a few months earlier, but they're saying, it easily could be spring or summer of, I guess, 2024. So we could be looking at a year and a half or so instead of the normal year or less. So, but anyway, one of my main things I'm going to throw out there is obviously we know Kreese escaped, and I kind of joke that, man, if he'd just held out a little bit longer, he'd have been let out anyway.
Right.
So, a couple of things with that. Is he not really punished for breaking out since he's going to be found innocent anyway? But my main theory is I believe he most definitely teams up with Kim Dae-yeon.
Oh yeah.
And because I noticed a couple of I'll call them Easter eggs. When she first meets Terry, she is obviously disappointed to hear that John Kreese isn't no longer part of the team. And one of the flashbacks, when she's a little girl, I don't know if you picked up on this,
Yeah.
and Kreese and Silver are fighting. Kreese is the one that obviously has some kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, not a relationship, but he looks back and he's the one that kind of winks at her.
Well, well, she was spying on them, and he noticed, and
Yeah.
she knocked over of was it a vase or something like that, and he was like, he took credit for it or whatever,
Yeah.
so that he wouldn't get her, so that she wouldn't get in trouble. So I don't think he was being like even like flirty, I would guess.
No, and
I didn't get
that's
any
why
of
I was
those
trying to
vibes.
say. I wasn't trying to, insinuate there was a relationship there. I was just saying there was a connection there
Yeah.
that they purposely didn't portray Silver having one.
Yeah.
So, and with her being disappointed to hear about John Kreese, well, she's not in trouble. Silver's the one that got arrested. She technically hadn't done anything wrong. So I feel for sure now that Kreese is out and into the world, I seriously doubt he's doing a redemption tour. I
Yeah.
think it's going to be more of a revenge tour. And so I think they work together in some capacity. So that's my first theory.
I
I'm
think
throwing
you're
out there.
absolutely right. I mean, I think that's, and I mean, that's I would say that's a pretty safe theory. Which, I mean, we could totally be wrong. We've just totally guessed on some crazy ones and gotten them right, on this episode. So, you know, we could totally be wrong, because that's definitely a theory that I have. I mean, I just kind of expect that to happen. But I mean, I kind of picture a scene, like where we see Kim Dae-yeon trying to escape, like before, because I think there's a chance she could get in trouble. She was very much there, and then, like, even though he's getting arrested for that stuff right now, he also, there's videos of him endangering children, the bribing stuff, like all of these things are things that, Kim Dae-in can be tied to. All of this, happened while she was there. So these are things that she could still be, you know, charged with. So she, if she gets incriminated, if he incriminates her or somebody else incriminates her, she's in trouble. So I could see her trying to like leave the country before on her private jet before anything happens. And I see, a scene where like Kreese runs up and catches up to her and like he flies out and he becomes like somehow, responsible for bringing in some of the kids that were in Cobra Kai. That were in Cobra Kai, and he brings some of them back for the tournament because Cobra Kai still has a spot in the tournament. And what how are they gonna? I mean, like I know this that like Cobra Kai is not the good part, but it would be kind of weird to have a show about called Cobra Kai without a Cobra Kai in it. So I think it's Kim Dae-yoon still wants to teach her family's training, and that's still important to her. And now Kreese, knows that they already have that groundwork laid. He's going to take advantage of it. So I could see something happening where, you know, like I said, maybe he flies to back to Japan with her, and they hatch a scheme somehow to like get the kids over there. Who knows? I don't know, but I do know that they're definitely gonna hook up, and well, not like hook up, but
Yeah.
you know, I definitely think that they're gonna like reconnect, and you know, they're gonna strike with at the tournament, like because the tournament's still a thing. So
It makes you wonder if it'll play out a lot like when Cobra Kai was banished from the All Valley tournament
yeah,
and Johnny pleaded his case and the way that was approached was, well, that was Kreese's Cobra Kai.
mhm,
So they allowed Johnny's Cobra Kai in. So I wonder if, as far as the Sakai Takai, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right,
yeah,
um, it could be presented, well, that was Silver,
yeah,
and he's out of the picture now. That's not Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai is now John Kreese and uh, Kim Dae-yeon.
yeah.
So, like you said, I have a hard time believing. I assume this tournament's still going to happen. I feel like that's got to be one of the major plays in season 6. Um, Obviously, Miyagi Do, Eagle Fang. We're not sure what their team name is going to be yet. They're obviously in it, and you'd have to think Cobra Kai in some way is going to be in it. So yes, it also makes me wonder: is there any kind of time jump with season 6? Typically, it's picked right up where the previous season left off, so there's not really much time that's gone by. But I guess one of the things I'm really thinking about is Carmen's pregnancy. That's not something you add to the storyline if you don't see it through. Now, maybe they've already got season 7 in mind because how much time does each season usually take? I mean, like in real world, it's
I
like only
think.
maybe a month or two.
I mean, yet I don't even think a season's last a full month. I think even I can't remember if it was in this season or in season 4. I want to say it was in this season that they referenced a few months. Like I think it was Robbie, maybe referenced like a few months ago. I was being trained by Mr. LaRusso or working for him or something like something that
Mhm.
happened in the first season, and I was like a few months through this whole
Yeah.
show. So I mean, I guess
That's why it makes me wonder because Carmen's not far enough along in her pregnancy to where just the 2-3 months passing, she's just still going to be a few months away from giving birth. Again, so maybe that's something. Maybe they've already got season 7 in mind. I just feel like the show can't end without her giving birth. Because one, I really want to see what they would do with Johnny in that role. There's a lot of comedy that could take place there, a ton of comedy, if I'm being honest, which I
yeah,
would love to see and I really want to see, and a lot of touching moments that could really play out in that. I'm just, how does that happen in season 6 without there being a time jump? Or is that not something that's really a focal point in season 6? And maybe they're already hoping that's something we can deal with in season 7.
Yeah.
So not so much a theory as it is just a big question that I'm not sure. Do they continue on with the same format where it picks right up, or do they take, let's say they just say a few months later, which I think they could get by with the way season 5 ended. I mean, everything kind of got wrapped up pretty good. I don't think they ever said when the tournament is. So I mean, the tournament could still be, especially if they're just now looking for dojos that can qualify. The tournament could still be a few months away, and of course they'll know that Kreese escaped. So maybe he's just in hiding,
Yeah.
and he makes his grand appearance, a few months down the road. So I'm interested to see how they deal with that.
So I'm thinking, um I have another theory. And this one's one that I've just kind of pieced together, but it's a little bit less of a possibility, but I still consider it quite possible that I think that Silver quite possibly has some kind of terminal illness. Um, and that's why he's so intent on spreading his legacy. Because I was wondering, and they even kind of, mentioned it a little bit, but more of as of like a throwaway line a little bit. But Silver was in the hospital and
Hmm.
he got in the elevator. And I mean, he could have been surveilling him, but what are the chances that he would be at the hospital, and why would he be at the hospital? And then I got to thinking, remember back when Silver was introduced and he was still with his girlfriend or wife or whatever, and somebody, I can't remember if it was her or the butler or somebody, mentioned something about, do you need to take your medication? Are you feeling all right?
Hmm.
And I mean, we haven't really seen him worry too much about, like his health or anything like that. So maybe that's why he's so desperate to do this and take it over now. Like it's always been something that has been important to him, but when Kreese reached out to him, maybe something was like maybe that's why he was so happy, was he was just like, I'm just content with going out peacefully. And then that's what Kreese stirred up in him. And maybe now we see Silver go after Kreese for trying to steal his legacy, and get revenge there. Maybe we see some kind of battle between them to where, like it's not even one of our quote unquote good guys that have to kill them. Maybe they
Yeah.
take each other out. And
Yeah. That's yeah, I didn't, I know exactly like the scenes you're talking about, but I guess that I never put two and two together. But yeah, that's a great theory that would make a lot of sense and would definitely be an interesting story arc. But obviously, it's like the opposite of going into season 5 when we're like,
mhm,
so how are they going to deal with Kreese being in prison? And now we got Silver, but it's a little different because Silver has a lot of money, a lot of power, and a lot
he
of
has a lot more
resources.
resources.
So how does that play out? Or are the writers intentionally wanting to turn the focus to Kreese since that's kind of where it started,
Yeah,
which is also a possibility. And like you said, the whole terminal illness would make sense. Maybe that's how they officially say we're moving away from Silver. We did kill off a character, so kudos to us.
yeah,
And now the attention is on Kreese. That would definitely be a way they could do that.
yeah. Maybe like while he's in prison, his health deteriorates rapidly.
Yeah.
Who knows? Do you have another theory?
This one's a small one.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's so much a theory as it is probably just everybody was like, well, yeah, and it's not a big part of the story, but I mean, obviously, I don't know how to pronounce her name, but Chosen's love interest.
Mhm.
For sure, he's got to go to Okinawa now, right? And then kind of start that relationship up. I can't see it being a big part of the storyline, but or maybe him doing the phone call was all
Maybe
they
we'll
wanted to they
maybe we'll
spin
see them
with it.
again
But
together whenever they go to the Sakai Takai.
yeah,
Maybe they'll spend some time together there.
because I mean, surely with this big as you using Chosen, and I gotta imagine he was your where did he? Oh, he was in your
In the
top
number
five, number
5, yeah,
five.
he's number 5.
I can't imagine he's not as popular with us as he is with the rest of the viewers. So surely he's still used as a major player in
Mhm.
season 6. I think even if he does go back to Okinawa and maybe they show some stuff with is it Kukumo or I don't even know how you say her name, but um, I still got to figure, like you said, he either goes to that tournament or returns to the All Valley, or I can't imagine he goes back to Okinawa and we don't see him much in season 6.
Yeah. Um, so I have a little bit of a crazy theory.
Let's hear it.
And it's just kind of something fun that I was thinking about. So I've been wanting to see the next Karate Kids, the student from the next Karate Kid, Julie. We've talked about this before. How fun, or not really fun, but how interesting would it be if we find out that it's Tori's mom and she's just had a life kind of, like Johnny's, where she just went down a bad path afterwards. And so now she's just been struggling and she finds her way back through with karate. And I don't know. I don't think it's gonna happen. That's my shot in the dark theory. I just think that's gonna be funny because I was trying to think, I'm like, well, where would Julie play in at? And then I'm like, we haven't seen Tori's mom.
Yeah,
And,
that's another good one though,
and
man.
Tori just knows how to
That's
fight already,
yeah.
even
Oh my
before.
gosh, it makes so much sense. That's another really good one. We talked about Hillary Swank, and like surely they can find a way to enter her into this series. And of course, I mean the writers can want it all they want,
Yeah.
but it's still up to Hillary Swank if she wants to do it. But and we hadn't brought this up yet. They recently announced that there's going to be a new Karate Kid movie, and by Sony, which also owns Cobra Kai.
Hmm.
And there's been speculation that maybe the movie features Hillary Swank.
Hmm.
Now, of course, that's just speculation. That's not on anything, any source, but the writers, or one of the writers of Cobra Kai, acknowledged the news of a new Karate Kid movie, but also stated it didn't involve them or it wasn't focused on the cast of Cobra Kai. So, which kind of made me think, well, since they haven't used Hillary Swank, well, and Sony also mentioned that it was I forgot how they worded it, but they basically said something to the fact that it's going back to the original Karate Kid franchise.
Yeah.
So like how do you do that with everything Cobra Kai has done and go back to the original but not use the characters or the actors that have already been featured in Cobra Kai? And
Right.
Hillary Swank would make sense. She's not been
Yeah.
used. She's not part of the cast of Cobra Kai. She's one of the characters that is part of the original Karate Kid franchise. So, but yeah, your theory, while it's out there, it would actually make a lot of sense. It would be really cool. Uh, but if they do that, I would kind of want her character to get better
Yeah.
so she could play a bigger role.
Yeah. And I mean, that's honestly why I kind of just think it's just not going to happen because they would have to put so much story into that character that I don't think it would really make sense unless unless they just didn't have another story to tell this next season, which I don't think is the case. I mean, they have plenty of story to tell without having to bring in that whole story arc. So I don't think it's gonna happen, but
Yeah, it's
just think
pretty
it'd be
heavy.
fun. I think it'd be fun.
Hey, Allie's a doctor. Maybe they bring Allie back to help
Yeah,
Tori's mom, get healed or, suddenly get better.
yeah.
So, but all right. So the next one I'm going to throw out is one. It's a theory I've been building for a few seasons now, and to Parker's dismay and disgust, I'm still thinking Anthony, man. I am. Now, I did say season 5. I did say it may not happen in season 5. We did see him get a little bit elevated. He had the thing with Chosen's training where he came up with the idea for them to work together and protect the egg. So he stepped up in that scenario. And at the very end, he's the one holding the tablet,
Hmm.
protecting the egg there. So he is elevated, but that's not what I had in mind. I guess when I said so, if that's what the writers come up with, and I will say I was wrong because I'm when I say I see him playing a much more bigger role, or I still go back to that quote that Daniel gave him from Mr. Miyagi, and I feel like that's got to play a major. If that's what they had in mind, then I'll accept defeat. I was wrong, but my theory is still definitely season 6. Anthony's going to progress because if you think about it, he's getting training or has got training from Johnny, Chosen, Daniel. We know Robbie's poured a lot into him. They don't show a lot of scenes, but you do see like in little snippets here and there. Robbie's working with them or showing them something.
Yeah.
He's also got Miguel, Eli. I mean, he's got all the best fighters really pouring into him. So, and Kenny's still his main rival, and we've obviously saw Kenny jump up big time as the top fighter for Cobra Kai, and of course that's one of the other theories is, or maybe questions, is where does Kenny go from here? Because he obviously didn't like how things played out with Silver and threw his Cobra Kai uniform on top of him. Does he officially leave, or does Kreese bring him back into the fold? But yeah, my theory is there's still a lot left with Anthony that I think we're going to see play out, and I'm still thinking he could be the main savior in some way. I know you won't like that because he is a little punk, but
I mean, that's all you. I think he served his purpose, and I think that that line. I think I think you've sewn that line on. I think you've cross stitched that line onto a pillow, and I think you curl up to that pillow every night with what Mr. Miyagi said about Anthony. I think it was just. I think Daniel in the moment was probably just telling him that to make him feel like he wasn't accepted into the karate, you know, lifestyle, and then he did have a place there. Um,
all right, Parker.
so
Let, let's do a bet right here now. And I don't know how it's going to come from your side, but from my angle, I feel like if I end up being right about Anthony, then I get to buy you a shirt that says something like "I love Anthony LaRusso," something like that, and you have to wear it, post it on our Facebook page or something like that. But if I'm wrong, you need to think of something that I would have to do in return. You don't have to think of it right now, but I'm thinking that would be a neat little bet. Heck, it's probably going to take a year and a half, 2 years before we know how it plays out. But and I will say it will be season 6. If there's
uh,
more, if it goes past season,
I think you'll have to wear. You should have to wear a blue mohawk for a week.
that's good, and I would be willing to do that. Now, well, I can't. I won't be allowed to go into work that way. That way, though. So I will do it for days, which we can definitely find a time period where I don't have to be in the office for extended period of time. So yeah, I would hold up my end on that.
uh,
So deal. So
I'm out of theories. That's pretty much all I really have as far
I'm
as I've got.
thinking. I'm thinking I'm all theoried out as well. There's obviously a lot of questions,
Yeah, there's tons of
but
questions, but as far as like things that I expect to happen or that I want to happen. That's pretty much as far as I am.
I will say this: when you mentioned the Hillary Swank idea and being Tori's mom, one of the very early theories from season one was that Miguel's dad was going to end up being Terry Silver.
Oh yeah, that would have
I,
been insane.
I remember hearing that like really early on, but then once they, revealed Ecuador and all that kind of stuff, Mexico, that kind of shot that theory down.
Yeah, it could
But
have been Kreese. I mean, obviously this is retrospective, but it could have been Kreese because Kreese was, missing the whole time. He could have been living down in Mexico or
yeah,
wherever.
but so yeah, fun stuff. So
All
any
right.
any final thoughts before I
No, as
throw
much as I've loved talking about Cobra Kai, I'm sad about that we're moving away from our flagship focus.
yeah,
I'm
it'll always have a special place in our hearts for sure, for many reasons.
Yeah, but I'm just as excited because we're moving into October, which is going to be our horror movie month, and this boy loves some horror movies, so I'm excited to get on here and talk about that. Um, Jeff, what's gonna be our first one?
So Parker loves horror movies. I've got a love-hate relationship. Loved it when I was younger. I've kind of fallen out of love a little bit. So I'm actually hoping that maybe this might rekindle the spark.
Maybe we can find you a good one.
Spark, spark, spark. So, yes, our first one came from, we got a number of recommendations from some of our listeners through our Facebook page. And one of the main ones suggested was Black Phone, which will stream on Peacock. So that's going to be the first one that we're going to tackle. So excited about that. Ethan Hawke, great actor. So anxious to see that movie. And
Yeah, I haven't seen this one.
so yeah, same here. So yeah, that's going to be our first one heading into October as we kind of gear away from karate into some more scarier stuff.
All right. Well, we will see y'all next. Well, I hope we don't. I mean, we might see some of y'all next week, but if we're seeing you as you hear this, this is going to be really weird because you're listening to our voice, but it's not coming from our face while we're looking at you. So you're probably having a really weird moment right now. If this is the next time we see each other, it's probably going to be really weird for both of us. So maybe not bring it up if it's not obvious. But next time you hear us, we'll be talking about the Black Phone. Ready to talk about it. Whoop, whoop. Thanks to my co-host Jeff, and thanks so much to you for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. 5 stars and a review really do help these dudes out on the chart. If you have a thought or idea about what we're watching, please email us at streamingwith2dudes@gmail.com or request to join the Streaming with Two Dudes Facebook group. Links to our Patreon and other socials are in the show notes. Thanks again, and remember to brush up and down and not side to side.